So, as you know, the strategy is built up on the challenges identified for the Baltic Sea region. At the same time, in the implementation of the strategy, we are also facing different challenges, but I wouldn't like you to scare with the challenges, taking that as something bad. Let's take those challenges as something to solve, to work together, to combine our efforts. So in this presentation, I will try to name different funding sources available for the implementation of the strategy, mostly on the project level. And I will still highlight the importance of cooperation and then alignment of funding, as also was said by Anders Lindholm, is thing or is issue highlighted by Polish presidency conclusions, at least the draft we have seen, and also in the first official report on the Baltic Sea Strategy's implementation. My presentation actually is based on three very simple questions. Why do we need to talk about funding possibilities, and why do we need to talk about the alignment of funding? What are those funds available? Yes, those are not funds for the Baltic Sea Strategy, because you know that there are no specially organized, specially established funding sources. But there are funds still. And then I would like also to highlight the question how to align those funds. The first question, why? As you know, the Baltic Sea Strategy is the joint commitment of 8 EU member states across the Baltic Sea. So it was agreed when establishing this strategy that we are ready and we would like to work together to overcome different challenges identified. There is also the clear need to change nationally oriented activities to the international ones. And it is not enough to take some activity within one particular country or one particular municipality or part of the country. But it is more important to cooperate. And this cooperation can happen in different ways. As I have mentioned, and it was mentioned already several times, there are no funding source established for the Baltic Sea Strategy. That's as well why we should talk about alignment of funding. And of course, as the strategy, the Baltic Sea Strategy came in the middle of current programming period, we can say that yes, because of that, we do not have our structural funds aligned, or we do not have our programs aligned, and we cannot support as many activities as we would like to. But I would like also to invite all of you, being representatives of particular ministries, national institutions, local authorities, that you would take the lessons learned, the comments expressed during today, and you would try to impact, and the next programming period, you would try to support the definition of the priorities important for Latvia. What I liked a lot and what I would like to stress as well, that in one of events organized by Interact Point Turku together with our Commission colleagues, it was suggested by stakeholders to turn 3 no's, very well-known no's in the Baltic Sea Strategy, as no new institutions, no new legislation, no new funds, to 3 yes. And first of all, it would be yes to better coordination and yes to the cooperation. Then another one about no new legislation, it's yes to better alignment of national and regional priorities and policies. And it's also yes to alignment of funding. It is also clear that the cooperation is crucial for the Baltic Sea Strategy, and we cannot stay in the borders of our own countries. When talking about what funds are there, I would like to list them, and I will skip several slides because some of the programs were already mentioned, and you have the list of programs in your handouts. It is because of the broad scope of the innovations, it's very tricky to highlight some programs or to mention just some of them. It's also clear that for the macro-regional demands or macro-regional challenges, the national funds are too small. This transnational approach is needed. Depending on the scope of the project, on the activities, on partners, on the budget limitations, it's also setting some kind of limits for the project developers, which funds to approach. So what do we have there? We have the EU-funded national regional development programs, or so-called mainstream programs. And you know that in all member states, there are those mainstream programs there. I will come back briefly in some other slides. We have, for the external cooperation with Russia and Belarus here, particularly important for Latvia, we have European Neighborhood and Partnership Instrument. We have different national, regional, local funding, and we will hear about the national or governmental support for entrepreneurs in a field of innovation a bit later during this session. We have other EU programs and funds, and it is a bit tricky to mention all of them or to trying to link them to the Baltic Sea strategy, because those are usually EU-wide. And even more, and even broader, including also Norway and other our neighboring countries. But still, I would like to mention also those. Then we have also banks, and we have European Investment Bank here, which is very active with their loan activities or lending activities, and we have also Nordic Investment Bank. We have our own resources, and I think that this is something we should somehow also keep in mind, that we have our own resources, and also our working time is another resource we are devoting for the Baltic Sea strategy. We have a list of other sources I will not even mention today, and then we have also intergovernmental funds or intergovernmental initiatives, and we will hear today from you about the Nordic perspective and Nordic cooperation. So just very briefly, EU-funded national regional development programs are mentioned as significant source for the Baltic Sea strategy, and those are programs supporting Baltic Sea strategy's implementation on the project level. Yes, what we are missing the cooperation on program level. And even if we have a tool and we have Article 37.6b of the, I have to check now the name of the number of the regulation. It is the Council Regulation 1083/2006, which is allowing transnational cooperation already now within the mainstream programs we have here. So at the moment, not so many countries are using this opportunity. Let's see how it will be for the next programming period and how many of those programs will support the project. We have also good examples of projects already supported by the programs. As mentioned already and as briefly presented by the State Secretary of Ministry of Economy, so there are different activities, different measures taken in the operational programs here in Latvia. Quite the same programs with quite similar priorities are all around the region. So actually, if we would try to find a partner in some other country, it would not be so difficult because priorities are quite the same. So far, territorial cooperation programs were found as the quite crucial funding source for the flagship project. And it is quite surprising because the aim of territorial cooperation programs is not to support big and very impressive infrastructure projects or innovation projects. So, but still, if you would look into the report from the Commission, you would see that the Baltic Sea region program is the one funding the most of the flagship projects. And that is one of the transnational cooperation programs we have here. We have also interregional cooperation programs and cross-border cooperation programs. And we have plenty of good examples of projects. And we have the new initiative that cooperation between the projects is also needed. So those are the programs I have mentioned, and here you can see also Interact 2, which I am representing. Then we have smaller cross-border cooperation programs, and I will just leave this up to you. You can also check the link. The neighborhood programs I have mentioned, those are not, or those do not support innovations as such, and not so often they are supporting SMEs, because not so often SMEs are eligible partners within those programs. But still, they are aimed to sustainable development, and they have priorities like promote economic and social development, and it is quite often in line with the ideas our employers has. So that is the list of the neighborhood programs. We have those national programs and funds, and we have those all around the Baltic Sea region. And for example, in Finland, there is a special program aimed for cooperation between Finland and Russia, and also those funds can be used. I don't know how active now in Latvia is the state investment program, but yeah, it is a bit dead for a while. Let's hope so, that just for a while. Then we have plenty of other programs and funds, and as you have heard, the bonus program is one of those, so I will not even tackle that program at the moment. At the same time, those 50% of EU funding are coming exactly from 7th framework program. Then there are lifelong learning programs, and the lifelong learning program is including different sub-programs like Erasmus, which is aimed to create European higher education area to foster innovation through Europe, and transversal, which actually has two activities: policy, cooperation and innovation, and information and communication technologies. Then there is competitiveness and innovation framework program, what was also mentioned. About Eurostar's program, you will read in your handouts. And there are several other ones which might be approached to support the cooperation within the Baltic Sea region. As I mentioned, there are lending activities of EIB and NIB. And then we're coming to the question how to align funds. What should be done? Because, of course, we hope for the next programming period that it will be easier. Mostly, or hopefully, the mainstream programs will be streamlined to support activities and priorities of the Baltic Sea strategy. But we should react also now. And when we are talking about alignment of funding, it is highlighted in the report that we are quite successful in it. But we are successful on the level of the strategy, because we have different funds aligned to the activities on the strategy level. I have to say that we have no example where within the same project or within the same flagship project, different funding sources would be aligned. And this is something we see, especially taking into account that quite many funds, those EU national and regional development programs, are already committed. So there is really actual need. And of course, we can talk about the funds aligned on the priority area level, and those are the Parliament funds now aimed to support priority area coordinators. But the project level is the one we are trying to develop our ideas, and there are no existing models. That is why Interact is taking initiative, and together with our Commission colleagues, we will start the workshops where we will invite different funding sources, different programs, and we will try to develop some kind of this model, if I could say so, that we would like to streamline, or we would like to support the flagship projects, that they would see that they can split their huge project into different smaller ones, or if it would be fine for the programs, that they could present the whole project, highlighting which priorities are supported by which program. We have started to have some discussions with some of priority area coordinators, and they are very interested in it. So, for example, if that would be some wastewater management innovation in the wastewater management systems. Then, for example, feasibility study could be funded by the territorial cooperation programs, some services by objective or this objective 2 and the objective 1 can be also mentioned, and then investments done by, for example, 7th framework program. But of course, it's just theoretical model. We'll start to work on that later this year. As I said, I would like to invite you not to take the Baltic Sea strategy as something well prepared, as something everyone knows how to do, because no one knows. And there are a lot of challenges also in alignment of funding. And as such, we can mention that it's quite tricky to identify what kind of funds do we have. Because on one hand, we have plenty of them, on the other hand, we do not. How we can follow different funding rules, and this is another challenge, and this is something I hope that in the next programming period it will be much easier and the procedures will be much more simplified. And of course, how to coordinate the application and many others. So, not to repeat myself another time, I would just like to say that cooperation, it is the key for the Baltic Sea strategy. So thanks a lot for a moment.